Hey guys, I hope everyone is doing well today. So in this video, I want to go over 10 red flags or concerning things that I see some Pokemon finance market YouTubers making on their channels when they're giving people financial advice or sharing financial opinions with their audiences. The aim of this video, and just a few caveats before we jump into those points, is not to call out specifically any names of YouTubers. I won't be mentioning any names in this video. It's really to give you guys a list of things to look out for so that you can take this list and think more critically about, is the YouTuber I'm listening to someone who has the relevant experience and credentials, we could say, to be giving me opinions that are worth taking seriously or worth incorporating into the way that you decide to buy and sell cards and build your collection. Okay, I think what's also very important to note is that all PokeTubers, including myself, are going to be making or showing some of these red flags, and that all of these things are on a sliding scale. They're not black and white. So, for example, the first one we're going to talk about, they don't. When someone doesn't have experience in actually buying and selling Pokemon cards, there are going to be people who have zero experience buying and selling Pokemon cards who are making YouTube videos telling people how to buy and sell Pokemon cards, which should be a pretty big red flag. And then there are going to be people who have a little bit of experience, have maybe been doing it this year. They're going to be people like me who have, experience doing it, seven-figure type amounts, but over the course of 4 years. And then you're going to have people even more experienced who have been doing it for 15 years, 20 years, who have hundreds of thousands of sales versus someone like me who has, many thousands of sales versus someone who has many hundreds. And I think understanding that these things are on a spectrum, and there are probably certain people within this red flag group that you really shouldn't listen to at all and probably have no business making YouTube videos. But there's also a lot of gray area in terms of how experienced do you really need to be in buying and selling for me to listen to you. And so I think that it's more on the viewer to just think critically about how that's important. And probably the more buying and selling experience, probably overall the better, okay? If that's what they're giving you their opinions on, all right? So the first few of these things I think are going to be a little bit more common sense. And then as we go along, some of these red flags are going to be quite a bit more nuanced, and I think are going to be really key to differentiate who are the people in the hobby who have been really giving balanced perspectives all year, and who have the relevant experience in both this hobby and other hobbies to be giving that, and who are the people who, probably it's absolutely fine to listen to and support and enjoy their channels, but probably should be taken a little bit more with a grain of salt. Okay. So the second one I want to talk about is that they don't own any, in some cases, or a lot of Pokemon cards. And again, with all of these, sliding scale, right, guys? But there are some people who, on their channel for many months, talk about how or portray themselves as some sort of expert, right, in buying and selling cards and in building a big collection, but maybe they've only really started their collection this year, or they have very few expensive items. They haven't really built up any significant value in their collection, and yet they're giving people advice on how to make the most money in the hobby. So that's where you start getting into those issues. Now, there are plenty of people who there are ways to stay in your lane, we could say, within this, right? So, for example, like if you have not a ton of experience, but some experience dealing in modern cards, and you only talk about modern cards, and you own a bunch of modern cards, or you only talk about promos and you own a bunch of promos, that is going to, I think, add some legitimacy and lower a little bit of that red flag issue. But so it's just important to think about it. Like, if you're not seeing valuable Pokemon product or expensive Pokemon product, and the he or she is not talking about the buying and selling and the deals they're making, those things are red flags. I would be more suspicious, right, of, is this person actually doing it? Now, of course, they could just be very private and not wanting to show you their items, but I would be pretty suspicious of of that person. And I think it's very reasonable to be. Third one I want to talk about is they don't know very much about Pokemon cards, or they don't have a broad knowledge of the hobby, okay, or at least a in-depth knowledge of the topics and the things that they are talking to you about, okay? So there are a lot of people who are, to put it bluntly, who are fronting knowledge, pretending that they have knowledge, that they have experience that aren't on YouTube. I know this for a fact, and again, I'm not going to call out names, but people really need to be aware of that and that that's going on, and be very careful to, not listen to these guys, and because you could end up losing a lot of money and making some pretty big mistakes. I really see this issue with people who, and I think part of why it's such a dangerous issue is there are so few people right now with that much knowledge in the hobby and that much broad knowledge that the newer people don't even know what broad knowledge looks like, or don't even know the questions to ask the people to actually get the broad knowledge. And so you have a lot of people who people feel are super knowledgeable, know so much about all these different cards, and they really don't. They've actually just been going on to, PokeBeach and copying, what they figured out, what they announced, and then sharing it to their audiences like they have that insider knowledge or got that knowledge from somewhere, and or their audiences don't ever really ask them tough, difficult questions about obscure cards to ever really test their knowledge, or they don't ever really talk about or have any knowledge of the past prices or the population reports or the history or all the analytics that it's so important when making decisions. And their audience is either young and a bit naive and so don't know to ask those questions or worry about those sorts of things, or they're just so new to the hobby that they don't even know that there are those cards, or there are those other options, or that prices have not always been at this point, and that in fact we've seen a huge movement in prices this year. Okay, and talking about what that means and the risks involved in that. All right, fourth one I want to talk about with you, warning or red flag, can be only talking about wins and not losses, okay? And I guess going back for just 1 second, on the third one important thing to mention is, like, someone like me, I'm still always in the process of learning, and also I'm learning about all these other collectible hobbies, and all these other card hobbies as well, to try and increase my knowledge. And so one of the dangers I see is people not being honest with their audiences and talking about what they do know and what they don't know. And I even see people completely making up things and just giving completely false information all the time, even really big YouTube channels and moderately pretty big size YouTube channels. And it's disheartening and it's frustrating for someone like me, who puts the effort into learning about as many things as I can and giving that accurate information, that there are so many people who are just misleading tons and tons of people, and that those people don't even realize it. So that's a difficult issue to solve, because you don't know what you don't know, so you don't know who's giving you the accurate information and the inaccurate information. And so a part of that, and it's why I always say you really need to educate yourselves, and don't take anything that I say or other YouTubers say as gospel. There's a lot that isn't known about these Pokemon cards, and there's a lot that the most experienced collectors have said to me that has proven to be false, and they make mistakes, and there's lots that they don't know and are proven wrong about as well. So it's a constant learning process, and it's a big problem when and this is really on those PokeTubers who just misrepresent their knowledge and understanding of the cards, and they do it to appear like an expert so that you will watch them, so that they can make money, get views, grow their channel and brand. That's why they're doing it. They're putting themselves over their audience. Next one I want to talk about, number 4, is only talking about wins and not losses. All right. So this is another issue, and it's something that I also need to get better at, which is talking about, and I do try and do it, particularly in my lives, talking about areas or mistakes that I've made. One thing that's difficult about this year is that it has been such a gangbusters year and everyone has made so much money that your mistakes don't actually look like mistakes this year. It's so many people have listened to a lot of these big YouTubers tell them to buy certain modern cards, for example, that have like doubled in price or gone up 30 to 40% in price. And in fact, that was a very poor place to put your money, because if you had put your money in something else, you would have made 10 times, 20 times in price. So trying to figure out how you're actually doing so you can talk about, you can accurately assess, are you making money just because the whole Pokemon card hobby is up a lot, and if you threw a dart at a dartboard and bought any card you would make a lot of money? Or are the fundamentals that you're working off of, is that what is helping you outperform the market over time? And the only way you're going to do that is to really track your own data. But for this one, for YouTubers, just not doing that, not talking about that, not talking about what percentage they've made on an item versus if they had put it in another item. And I see this issue constantly where I go into comment sections and people are like, thank you so much for telling me to buy that item. I made like $50 or $100 on it, right? When in reality, if they had put money in something else in Pokemon, they would have made $1,000 or $1,500. And then instead of that PokeTuber being honest and saying, I'm really glad it worked out, but everything is going up right now, there's a risk for it to come back down. I see them say, nod their head in agreement that they're some sort of like a guru and they knew the future and they're some sort of expert. And these guys will get found out over time because you can't accurately predict prices like that. But in the meantime, it's going to cause a lot of problems, one. And two, it can be a bit hard to find these guys out for the masses, because people tend to only watch the newest YouTube videos, and people forget what people said in the past and what predictions people have said in the past. So there's a lot of issues with that's a bit hard to address and resolve. The best thing we can do is try to educate the Pokemon community as much as possible so that each of us have the agency to decide, does this YouTuber know anything about this subject? Yes or no? How much do they know? Which ones should I avoid? Which ones should I listen to? Etc. Okay. Next one, number 5, have only been, and this is a really important one, guys, have only been hyping up the cards this year and are only now starting to talk about the dangers or risks of purchasing Pokemon cards once the market has already started to correct and once it has become so obvious and so safe to give some of those bearish or risky opinions. We're going to see this more and more. We've already seen it a lot from people who are a big reason and really participated in a lot of the inflated prices, now saying things like, be careful. There's going to be tons of slabs coming back from PSA. They're hedging their bets and kind of saying these sorts of things, I think, so that their audiences don't get angry at them when prices do come down. And instead of saying that to their audiences when they should have been saying that when they really needed it, when I was saying it and getting a lot of heat like 8 months ago during Logan Paul, they're saying into it now when it's easy, after they've already taken advantage, frankly, of the hype and of telling the audience what they wanted to hear, and grossly have taken the credit for making their audiences so much money, and when their audience tells them you're a genius for giving me that advice, taking credit for that. And now on the flip side, being with 2020 vision, saying, yeah, we're gonna see corrections are normal, corrections always happen. So people have to get really savvy out there about understanding how these PokeTubers, and this isn't a PokeTuber issue. If you go and watch cryptocurrency content or any sort of financial investing content on YouTube, all the things I talk about here are rampant in people advising you on stocks and people advising you on real estate, etc. Okay? As always on this channel, all these things, we're also just trying to teach like good fundamental critical thinking skills. Okay? All right. Number 6. They don't talk about supply and demand fundamentals. All right. They never talk about how demand is built or sustained. All right. And they never talk about really important aspects. This is probably the biggest one. They never talk about rarity. So they just talk about like, this art's cool, you should go out and buy it. This is investable because I like it, right? Giving those types of takes. And again, it's absolutely fine when they are giving those sort of casual takes, as long as they're very clear with their audience that they are not a Pokemon expert, that they are not savvy, they don't have some in-depth plan or knowledge and aren't thinking too critically about this, and they're just kind of casually talking about what they like, and maybe you'll like it, right? It's all in how the message is delivered. Okay, I think that there's plenty of room in the in Pokemon channels for people to say, I like this card and maybe it'll go up, right? That's totally reasonable. It's when you say, I like this card, I know really nothing about it, I have no idea what its rarity is, but I think it's investable and I think it's going to go up. And that's what we've been hearing all year from these people who get majority likes on their videos. And that's what really scares me. That's what really scares me. Okay. And I think that these are learning, growing pains, and from a new hobby that is going to be here for the foreseeable future, and all of these YouTubers who may or may not be doing some of these things, I think can improve and get better over time. It's really going to be down to, do they take this seriously and how much they actually care about the well-being of their audiences versus are just sort of focused on their own growth and their own success. Number 7, they give you price predictions, and they give you, or even worse, they give you price prediction guarantees without the caveat of, I have no real idea, or without giving you the reasons, even worse, why they're predicting that price. This is rampant. Almost every channel I see this. I've worked so hard not to do this on my channel, right? And the few times I've given price predictions have probably been in YouTube live stream videos when people have kind of pushed me, and then I've said it with like that huge caveat of like, I don't really know, and I give a long, very specific answer of why I think that it might get to that price point at some point. And we see this from a lot of the biggest experts and most famous people in the hobby, just throwing out numbers, right? Saying, this is going to be $1 million. This is going to be $2 million. This is going to be $10,000. Next year, this will be $20,000, and giving no reason. And then that's problematic, but the most problematic thing is that guarantee. When you hear someone says, I guarantee that you will make money on this, and give you those types of hard sale tactics, run the other way. Like, that's the snake oil that's the snake oil sales mini stuff that we really see in in the fake guru world, the fake investing online guru world, right? I guarantee you'll make money if you buy this card from me, if you listen to me. Okay? Nonsense. No one has a crystal ball. No one is a wizard who can guarantee any sort of investment. All investment is risk. Even bets that seem really safe still have some inherent risk. Okay? So that's a huge one, huge problem. Number 8, telling you they know what the Pokemon card company is going to do. Okay? In almost all cases, another red flag. And I've heard this a lot, and mostly with Modern. People telling people that they would never reprint this, or they would only reprint that, or they would only reprint this in a 4 to 5 year window, or they don't reprint Elite Trainer boxes, they only reprint booster boxes. It's a bunch of nonsense. Okay? I can't, unless they have insider information that they're willing to tell us about, and I don't think any of these guys have it, they are throwing out wild speculation. And unless they tell you that it's wild speculation and give a lot of reasons for why they think that is, then that's hugely problematic. So a couple of times that I've done it on this channel when I've been asked in the live streams, I always say, I think the Pokemon card company is going to do this because my common sense tells me that they're probably going to do that based on what they've done in the past and based on what I've seen from them. But my common sense is worth basically nothing. And this is what I say specifically, because we're in a brand new, this is a very different type of period in Pokemon. I think the Pokemon card company may make a lot of changes. They may make no changes. We don't really know. There's really no way to predict it. They're very secretive. They're very protective of that type of information, as they should be. They do a phenomenal job with that. And so it's a red flag when random people online are telling you that they know things that they don't know like that. Okay. All right. Number 9, selling to their audience directly or having some sort of other secondary incentive, okay, is a potential red flag. It's not necessarily a red flag, and I'm going to talk about that, okay? When an influencer has a secondary incentive, whether it's, and the two biggest ones are going to be they're trying to sell you something, okay? Well, they have a few secondary incentives. They're trying to get you to watch their content because they make money on the ads, because they want to grow their channel and become big because that's fun and exciting and to be successful, right? Those are all secondary incentives that every YouTuber, including myself, of course, is going to have, right? That they have a business where they're directly selling to you on their channel, or they have some other secondary business, connected to it, that they're going to use the channel to funnel sales in there. All of that provides this dual relationship, we can call it, where their goal is not only to give you the best opinions that's going to help you make the best decision, but their goal is to also build their brand, make money, and in worst cases, hype up and push up and manipulate the market intentionally or subconsciously to suit their own goals or their own benefit, right? So if you own a lot of one card, if a YouTuber owns a lot of one card, or if a YouTuber has come out and said over and over again that this set or this thing is really great and has made all these ridiculous price predictions around it, they're going to have more of that incentive to continue to push that product. It's going to be very hard for them to give reasonable, realistic predictions and advice if they've overshot by promising the moon and guaranteeing certain things. And that's how a lot of these things can work together and cause problems. All right. So you being really savvy, understanding that this person on YouTube has their own agenda, their own intentions for putting out this video, and it's not just to help you succeed. Now, I think there are certainly PokeTubers, and I hope that I will be considered one of these, that care a lot about the people that watch the channel and started their channel fundamentally for that reason, so that we do the best to be aware of our own conflicts of interest. We talk about them and express them specifically to the people who watch our channels, and we do our best not to push the market or manipulate the market, too much. But not only are people manipulating the market, intentionally or unintentionally, but lots of YouTubers don't even think this is a thing, right? They don't even acknowledge that they have an effect and that they have their own agendas outside of just helping people, make money or helping people enjoy the hobby or make better decisions. Okay. And that's that it's naive to think that the person you're listening to isn't just like you and doesn't have their own wants and desires and agendas. Okay. So that's just good common sense, I think, to protect yourself. All right. Now, with that last one, it's really important to note, right, that this is a red flag that you have to be aware of when you listen to any YouTuber. And again, it's not black and white, and there's a sliding scale. I mean, if we take someone, I wasn't going to say names, but there are certain people who use their channel to sell directly that I'm friends with, but that are extremely clear about that with their audience. They talk about the margins that they make, and they make sure their audience knows that they want to sell and that they're trying to make money and that this is their business. They're not trying to hide that fact or pretend that they're just their friend or they're just in it to help them. These types of emotional manipulation that I see some other content creators do. All right, number 10. That they don't have experience in other non-Pokemon markets. If this is like their first time, if they're very young, and this is likely their first time ever investing in any collectible, they haven't studied other collectible hobbies, other collectibles, and maybe they have no experience in investing in anything. This is their first time ever putting their money into an item. there are a lot of people, I think, who probably fit this mold who are making content right now. They're probably very excited, and they probably have a really overinflated sense of their ability. And this is very normal and natural, particularly if you didn't grow up in a family where there was a lot of investing, where you learned in school about value investing and some of these principles and knowing how markets go up and down. You might have a very overinflated sense of your ability. And so due to that, you might say, well, I'm going to make a YouTube channel. I've done this. I'm going to help a lot of other people do exactly what I did because I'm so skilled in this that I'm going to help all these people out there. So it can come from that really good place, but it's naive. And for us watchers or consumers of content, including myself who consumes content, it's very important to listen to people who have that experience in other markets and or are working hard to develop that experience in other markets and incorporate lessons that they've learned from other investments or other things they've done in their life into this brand new, really brand new market. Of course, there's been a somewhat thriving and engaged Pokemon community and market before this year, but it's really a whole new ball game in terms of the prices and the interest right now. So I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. And if you did, please take a moment to subscribe to the channel, to like the video. Please share this video around. And I really appreciate you taking the time to watch it. And I hope that it helps you think critically and or can be a good resource that you can send to someone who is newer into the hobby and you think might benefit from seeing something like this, as I have a feeling that a lot of the people who watch this channel and are engaged in this channel already have a good grounding in who to listen to and who not to listen to based on this list. Okay, so thank you so much for engaging in the video, and I'll have another one for you soon. Take care.